Hey everybody, great Monday to you. This Oakland City Council update is to alert you to something you may not be aware of, and chances are you would catch you by surprise, unless of course you saw this. As you can tell, this Oakland City Council candidates list for the District 1 seat includes Stephanie Dominguez Walton, who I have interviewed here at Zenny62 on YouTube, Dan Kalb, who I will interview this Wednesday at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Zenny62 on YouTube. He is the incumbent council member. And then Trigo, who I also interviewed on the 16th of January of this year. Now, the highlighted name is one of a man that goes by Jeremy Gong. Jeremy Gong. Now, I haven't interviewed Jeremy Gong, and when I interviewed Try, and I checked the listing, Mr. Gong's name had not popped up, but now, as of this February 10th day, we see Mr. Gong's name. So, I went to find out more about him in the preparation to contact him for an interview. And I learned this. Well, folks, Jeremy is not running for reasons of health. How did I know that? Because when I Googled the name Jeremy Gong Oakland, unfortunately and quite sadly, this is what I found, and I will show you in one moment. And it basically goes like this. It says he's ending his campaign for Oakland City Council District 1 pretty much before it started, as you can see. He was a member of the local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. And if you scroll down here in his blog post on Medium, it reads, "Not me, us, ending my campaign, continuing the political revolution." This was posted January 8th. Just about 8 days before I interviewed Jeremy Gong, who had not known about him, by the way. And he writes that this January he had intended to seek the endorsement of the East Bay DSA before launching a campaign for Oakland City Council in District 1. I regret to announce that due to health concerns, I will be withdrawing my request for an endorsement and terminating my plan to run for office. While this decision has been difficult, I don't regret choosing to run. The experience has shown me the potential of our movement and the need for DSA to run our own candidates and build independent electoral power. He writes, "It has been an extraordinary honor to receive so much support and guidance in this process, and I am eager to continue fighting alongside so many wonderful organizers across the country for radical change and true justice in our time." And then he goes on to write, "Running DSA organizers for office is new to our organization." And he goes on a lot about that. Nothing about Oakland, really, unfortunately, until he gets to here. "We need a political revolution in Oakland," he writes. "The issues that animated this campaign remain as pressing as ever. Our rents are still skyrocketing. Our black and brown neighbors are priced out of their homes. The city council is giving away public land for luxury apartments. Our public schools remain under threat of closure and privatization, and our lives are threatened by wildfires and looming climate catastrophe." And so he writes, "It is clear that the progressive political status quo in Oakland will not save us from the worst capitalism has to offer, and the same is true in cities and communities across the country. That is why the DSA must continue to run class struggle electoral campaigns." In clearly a Bernie Sanders support. So it's more about the DSA, nothing much about Oakland, other than that he's excited to keep fighting to elect Bernie Sanders, and there. Okay, so just reading all that to you that he has written to let you know that if you see his name, okay, he pure and simple is not running for Oakland City Council District 1. He is not running for Oakland City Council District 1. And something else I saw that I thought was interesting and I would like to share with you. And it it goes like this, essentially. This was written a year ago, or thereabouts. Yes, posted 1 year ago here. And it's Jeremy Gong's East Bay DSA argument against endorsing Oakland mayoral candidate Kat Brooks, citing her being Oedipal-centric as major reason. And given that this is 2020, I don't know that it should have been written a year ago, because a year ago the mayor's race is already decided. So that's an error. Let's click on this and see what's going on here. Unless he, of course, deleted it by author. It looks like he deleted it. There's a 410 coming up. It says 410 deleted by author. He deleted this. Ooh, interesting. So let's go here and then here and find out what happened. And this is an interesting read, okay? Right here, it's by someone named Strattery in Poopville, at any rate, written a year ago. For those who were not at East Bay DSA's July Journal meeting, you should read this statement from our co-chairs about the events that took place there. In short, during an open debate among our chapter about whether or not to carry out an endorsement process in August, Kat Brooks and her associates and supporters intervened in the meeting, took and held the floor, despite protestations from the chair, who was called racist for seeking to facilitate the meeting according to our chapter's democratically decided upon rules, and denounced the DSA as a white racist organization consisting of gentrifiers. DSA was described as, quote, the problem, unquote, the clear implication being that our organization is a cause of both racism and gentrification, if not other social ills. And this person follows up and says, well, okay, DSA sucks at attracting black and brown people, but this is crazy. And someone says that's totally blanking blonkers. And it'll be interesting to see if some of these folks are later behind Moms for Housing. This says, there's good reason to believe that Brooks hasn't actually changed her position, political orientation around privatization as a DSA Re-Foundation caucus-sponsored forum, at a DSA Concord-sponsored, at a DSA Re-Foundation caucus-sponsored forum in August. Say that 3 times real fast, folks. When asked if she supports socialized medicine, Kat Brooks responded that since public health care resources are not getting to poor working people in neighborhoods in East Oakland, you might have to resort to privatization to make sure Oakland is served. Now, this person says, just laugh out loud. Don't know why that's a laugh out loud, but I see what Kat's getting at. And then this goes on to say, Brooks actually touted her work with Education Trust West in the questionnaire she filled out as part of East Bay DSA's endorsement process. It says almost as though Matt Stoller, of all people, was right that the political spectrum in the U.S. is not left versus right so much as Brandeisen versus Galbraithian. Interesting point, referring to John Kenneth Galbraith. Brooks herself has been calling us racist ever since the meeting at a DSA Re-Foundation hosted forum. Brooks described the July meeting, which she interrupted, as a white mob out of a Dixie state in the 1960s. Oh boy, oh boy. And then this person writes, it became more clear by the day that Re-Foundation aren't so much socialists as they are sexual nerdlings who would be much happier getting a Tinder where they could get a horny... Anyway, okay. Bankers from the San Francisco Financial District to sweep them off their feet and pin it with their stockings and... yikes. Okay, that's not a cool comment, but at any rate. Okay, so... I see where this is, and unfortunately, this points to a bigger problem. And folks, the bigger problem is this: if someone like myself or somebody else says, "Hey, what you're doing is racist," rather than just dismiss or explain them away, you would do well to ask the person who said it why, because then you can improve. It's basically, let's say if I do something or I say something that maybe you don't like, right? Then say, hey, I don't like that, and we can have a conversation. I can have a chance to say, okay, I'll change or adjust, right? Because that's the way to do it. And so there's a lot of people who are, I'll put it this way, okay? The main problem among those in Oakland, the East Bay, who say, oh, by the way, I'm not racist, is when they say that, a person like me reacts and thinks, well, you actually are, because you're not listening to me. You're not even asking me to explain where I'm coming from. And it's not a good look, because in this instance, my reaction to having just seen this for the first time is, okay, if someone is accusing this organization, a group, of not being sympathetic, to African Americans, black and brown, or African, they kind of leave themselves wide open to this image that I saw that was posted by Mr. Gong himself, the one that I opened this up with, where he was standing with ostensibly a group of people who were also DSA members. They were all white. Okay? There wasn't, and if someone says, well, that was a black person, look, the person was light-skinned, if that's the instance. And if you say, oh, then I would then say in the next breath, it would be a good idea to understand the history of light-skinned African Americans with respect to their dark-skinned brothers and sisters, and how a number of light-skinned African Americans are many times mistook for someone who was white, and have passed that way in order to move through society at a better economic level. It's fact. So it's nothing to be laughed at. It's quite a problem even to this day. So the bottom line is, I don't see, when I hear democratic socialists, I don't see anybody who really desires to go out and basically just recruit black folks. Say, hey, look, you know what? We want to have you in our group. Here's what we offer. Here's what we want to do. There's no humbling of oneself to sell. That's really what it's about, selling a point of view. It's more browbeating, like, oh, I know more than you, and therefore you have to join with me on this, or there is something wrong with you. And that's really like a great way to get people on your side. Okay, take a look at this photograph right here. Okay, let me move this out of the way. All right, look. Okay, look. I don't see anyone African American in the photograph. Nobody. Okay, and I have a feeling that if these ranks were expanded, I wouldn't. And so therein lay the problem. You've got to ask yourself, why do that? You can't advocate to speak for black and brown people and then establish a group that doesn't have black and brown people in it. So, look, Kat's approach was wrong in terms of from what I've read, if it is the case that she barged in like that. And but the overall point about us not getting together as people, of winding up being racially segregated, rather than you're asking the question, hey, why are we racially segregated? How can we not be racially segregated? When you don't ask a person to explain why they say you're being racist, you're not looking for an avenue to improve. And you're not really, in point of fact, trying to embrace them or their point of view, not trying to sell them. So my point is this, to Jeremy Gong and others who are part of the DSA, sell where you're coming from. Be nice. Stop trying to cancel people, because, look, all you're going to get are people trying to cancel you. And who wins from that? Nobody. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Have a great day. See ya.